Top 5 running back potentially sitting right in front of your face. A guy that is being very vocal right now from an organization that completely mismanaged this situation in Saquon Barkley leaving New York. There is not a more incompetent group of decision makers in the NFL right now than the New York Giants decision makers. This video footage that's been released, I'm not sure if you've seen it on my Instagram. I posted it on my IG. You can definitely check it out over on my Instagram. I posted this footage of this Mickey Mouse organization, the New York Giants. I'm sorry if that's your team. I don't think I'm even offending you. I think you probably agree with me if you're a Giant fan. But the Giants mismanaged. This guy right here, this clown right here, doesn't know what in the hell he's doing, because he didn't even counter Saquon Barkley on the final offer that went Barkley's way. They scoffed at it. They acted like he wasn't worth the money. And Saquon's seeing this for the first time, watching the video footage, and he's clapping back. We're talking Barkley. We're talking Davante Adams. His words in response to all the trade rumors. We're talking Brandon Aiyuk and how a new report by Schefter says the Niners are not trading him. But we can't trust any of these reports, to be honest. We're going to talk about all that and more and open the phone lines. The Fantasy Football Show, the Saquon Barkley Revenge Tour show, Saquon Barkley Coming for Everybody show begins right now.
Live from the FantasyFootballShow.com studios.
It's the Fantasy Football Show. Live!
Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Smitty is also live whenever news breaks.
From the FantasyFootballShow.com news desk, here is your breaking news.
I've never seen a more Mickey Mouse organization than the New York Giants right now. The way they're making decisions, the way they're building this team, the way this video footage is being released, and there's clips that I've pieced together on Instagram. But watching this clown of a decision maker literally say, "Hey Barkley, we're gonna let you go test the market. Go find out what you're worth, and then come back. You promise you're gonna come back and give us a chance?" And does Barkley ever come back and give him a chance? He even said in this clip, you can hear his audio as this guy's trying to play drama in front of the cameras. He says, "You promise you're going to give us a chance?" He goes, "What do you mean? I told you where I want to be. I want to be in New York. You aren't giving me the deal. But yes, I'm coming back to give you a final say on where I go. Where's my future? I want to be in New York." Now, Barkley doesn't understand, because players get too close to situations. They don't know what's good for them. They don't know who's good to play with. You ask a player like Barkley to rank his top 5 quarterbacks, you'll get an answer like Tyreek Hill gave, where he said Baker Mayfield was in his top 5. Then when laughed at, he comes out and says, "Yeah, I was just trolling." No, you weren't. You don't know. Players are too close to their situations to understand how bad or how good a certain situation is. And Barkley wanted to stay. Let's take a lap moment right there. Barkley almost gets sent on a lap here. The reason we won't is because he's in a glorious situation. There's no need to go there now. But Barkley, his agent, talked to this guy right here, this man right here on video, and says, "Hey, here's the offer." He goes, "We're out. We're out." Didn't even counter, didn't even send a final trade offer or contract offer to Barkley and his agent in Barkley's camp. When he said, "You promise you're going to come back to us?" Didn't even send anything. Ends up going to the Eagles, and on camera, they have these guys, these decision makers, these suits sitting there going, "It's going to kill me if he goes to the Eagles. Is he going to the Eagles? If he goes to the Eagles, I don't think I'll be able to sleep at night." And then one guy stands up and says, "I think Barkley by far is our most popular player. I really don't. I've seen a lot of players in my day, but Barkley's by far the most popular player. I'm not going to sleep good at night if he ends up a Philadelphia Eagle." And he ended up an Eagle. This organization doesn't know what in the hell it's doing. And then they say, we're going to try and go get Jaden Daniels. If we don't get Jaden Daniels, Dable likes him a lot. Dable said, is he worth trading up? Yes, he is. Yes, he is. We want to go get Dable. Or Dable says, yes, we want to go get Daniels if he's there. That's smart. Dable does have some good instincts. But guess what this group of decision makers, including this man right here on screen, said? Well, if we don't get him, we'll just stick with Danny Dimes and surround him with some players. We'll stick with Danny Dimes and surround him with players. This organization doesn't know what it's doing. Poor Nabers. Tread lightly. Tread lightly on Malik Nabers because he can only do this by himself. I'm not saying there isn't a world where we look at Malik Nabers come midseason, come week 10 and say, God, he's really putting this team on his back. He's got 5 touchdowns in 11 games because he's broken off 3 or 4 long touchdown receptions on his own. This is the only way that he can do what he can do. This is the only way that he can become as capable as he's capable of becoming as a rookie when he has no support and he has a clown of an organization running things and not surrounding him with talent. Barkley obviously gets a hold of this footage. It's all being leaked on social media now. It's all been, played, and you've got the wide receiver. You've got all these videos that are out, right, where all these teams have been, on camera all offseason long, watching their draft process, and Barkley's watching this back for the first time, and he finally sees the Giants for what they are. He finally sees what was going on behind closed doors, and he claps back today and says, who are you or anyone else to tell me how long I can play the game? I call BS. And this is Barkley responding to the longevity questions that they had when they said, we're not going to pay him this amount of money. We're not going to pay him this amount of money. He's not worth this amount of money. He's not doing it. We're not doing it. We're not going to go near it. This has been a debacle from the beginning. When Danny Dimes got his contract last offseason, they should have signed Barkley to the long-term deal, and they should have franchise tagged Danny Dimes and did what the Green Bay Packers rightly so did. Let's let Jordan Love prove it. If we got to pay a little more, we got to pay a little more. And it's going to cost the Green Bay Packers to do it. But it was a smart decision. This is an unbelievably dumb organization right now. And I'm sorry for my Giant fans out there that are hearing this and going, this feels really, really bad. You know what I'm speaking is the truth. You have an organization married to Danny Dimes for yet another year. You have an organization that actually believes that Danny Dimes is going to do well this year, potentially. You're going to go down that road. You drafted Malik Nabers. You have no backup plan. And yeah, maybe you're the worst team in the league. That is very likely. And you have your shot at a quarterback inside the top 2 or 3 ranked QBs coming out of the 2025 NFL draft class. This might be your saving grace, but do you get rid of Dable at that point? Who is going to be the scapegoat? This organization does not know where it's headed. And they don't obviously understand Saquon Barkley. They obviously don't understand his value. They obviously don't understand how good he can be. They absolutely don't get football because they're sitting around in a little powwow talking about how they don't want the Eagles to get him. It's just an absolute embarrassment watching this footage of the Giants organization and decision makers not making decisions. Watching them not making decisions. That's all it is. This video footage is watching them circle around, and this guy got a big smile on his face like he's some amazing decision maker at his desk like this, leaning back. And one of the I forget what his name is, the older guy that said I can't sleep at night, and he leans in and goes, yeah, I just don't think I'll be able to sleep at night. And you look at this guy's grin, he's like, yeah, maybe he's gonna make us pay, maybe he's gonna make us regret not doing it live. Chris, the RD, let's see here. I'm all in on Saquon, Derrick Henry revenge tour. The New York Giants clearly don't know ball. They don't know what in the hell they're doing. I'm very shocked that these people are in roles to make decisions. You watch it and you say, my grandma, who's not even alive anymore, God rest her soul, could make better decisions right now than this Giants organization. This Giants organization is pitiful right now. The decision to even bring Danny Dimes in on a long-term deal is absolutely pathetic. To not have seen that he's not the answer, that's about as bad as Mac Jones, thinking Mac Jones was it. Trying to continue to invest and throw good after bad with Mac Jones was ridiculous. This feels very much the same. And I don't think that this organization right now, with the decision makers that are in place, this is the important part right here. If you think, okay, well, they're not wanting to bring in a running back that might have 2 or 3 years left, and they obviously you're not planning on winning in 2 or 3 years. You are obviously a bad group of decision makers anyway. You should be thinking about winning 1 year from now. You should be thinking about doing a turnaround like the Houston Texans, like the Detroit Lions, like the Cincinnati Bengals. Like this is not one of those things where Barkley's too old to be a part of this turnaround. That is failure. That is, if you're not first, you're last type thinking. That is, you want to be last. You're fighting for last place. That is a dumb mentality. Barkley can be a part of this. But the crazy part is these decision makers, if they stay in place, are going to be the ones responsible for evaluating the quarterback. The same decision makers that thought Danny Dimes was worth the money. This is going to be the Caleb Williams 2.0. You're going to go into this draft class with bad decision makers trying to decide who the quarterback is that they want to take. Give me a break. This organization's going to botch it. There's a lot of talent in Nabers, no doubt about it, but this is not a good bet in 2024 as a rookie with this group of decision makers, with this group of talent. Saquon Barkley is hungry. He's going to prove everyone wrong. He is a Mars man extraordinaire for a reason.
He's on a shuttle to Mars. Mars man.
The Eagles are so smart that they brought the incentives to the table and to the party. And they said, hey, Barkley, on your $37.75 million deal, let's add another $4.5 million in incentives so you can stick it to the Giants. Let's give him $500K if he's all pro. Let's give him $500K if he gets 1,500 total yards and also, 2,000 total yards rushing and receiving. Let's give him $500,000. Let's give him $500,000 if we win the Super Bowl and he gets 1,000 plus regular season rushing yards plus the Super Bowl win. Let's give him $4.5 million in incentives. Let's unleash this monster against everybody that doubted him. Let's unleash this monster against everybody that thinks he can't do amazing things we've never seen him do before behind an offensive line. As I always say over and over and over, you don't know what Barkley's capable of behind an amazing offensive line like Philly's, and I don't know. None of us have seen it. None of us. This is like taking one of the great running backs of our pastime that never had a good offensive line. I don't want to use Barry Sanders in this example because I don't want people to think I'm saying that Barkley's Barry Sanders. But what if you gave that player who never had a good offensive line an offensive line? We have never seen Barkley run in a good offense. We've never seen Barkley partake in offensive goodness like we're about to see in Philly. So there's no cap, no limitation, no governor, no reserve we're putting on the output that Barkley could deliver in 2024. He could absolutely be running back one. I'm not saying he's mine. I'm not saying I'm going to put him even in my top 2 or 3 in my projections. I'm just telling you there's no cap. There's no, Josh Jacobs, love him, 6 to 12 capable, but not getting inside the top 5. That's how I feel about Josh Jacobs. Love him. That guy's amazing this year. He's a fantastic, underrated player, Josh Jacobs, in Green Bay. But there is a limiter. There is a governor on his capability and output in my mind. You know, we look at a player like Najee Harris. Could he be a big surprise, but can he ever exceed this certain level? No. There's a limiter. There's a capacity he cannot get into or reach. Barkley has none. He can be running back one if he wants to, and he's hungry enough, and his incentives make him want to eat. $4.5 million in incentives for a running back that doesn't get paid as much as the average Bear. $4.5 million is a lot of money to Saquon Barkley. Might not be to JJ. JJ could wear, different colored shoes that violate the league's personal conduct policy and pay $4.5 million in fines on the year, and he won't miss a beat. This guy wants $4.5 million. You can't blame him, and he's coming for it. No one, including me, knows what's in store for Saquon Barkley, Mars man extraordinaire in 2024. Nobody. We are all in the dark. We're all headed down an avenue and road no one's explored. This is uncharted territory, handing a player with his talent level an offensive line like the Philadelphia Eagles, handing a guy like Barkley to Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore is going to produce a lot of receiving opportunities for Barkley that he wouldn't have got if the Eagles didn't change their offensive coordinator and their system 95%. Barkley's going to catch footballs. This is not about Jalen Hurts not throwing and checking down to him. This is about Kellen Moore designing stuff differently than in the past. This is a Kellen Moore, Dallas Cowboy situation. This is a Keenan Allen, wide receiver 3 or 4 last year situation. Kellen Moore plus this amount of talent in Philly with this offensive line, with this defense, it's going to be so much better. Drafting good defensive players, bringing in a defensive coordinator that can get the job done. This is going to be glory. The Philadelphia Eagles, as I've stated, and you see on my board behind me, it's right. I don't even know if you can see it. The camera. Hold on. It shows NFC champs in the corner. I'm not changing my tune there. Are the Niners capable of it? Absolutely. They stay healthy. They're one of the top teams in the NFC as well. They're easily inside my top 2 or 3. Niners, the Eagles. You got the Green Bay Packers trying to prove a lot of people wrong in terms of where they belonged last year. How did they get lucky advancing as far as they did? Should they have beat the 49ers? You got the Detroit Lions. Same thing could be said about them. Falcons are coming for everyone as well. Can the Dallas Cowboys do it? There are a lot of good teams in this conference, but will the Philadelphia Eagles be the number 1 team left when all is said and done? I think the answer is yes. Will Saquon Barkley surprise and shock the world? I say this Mars man's going to mother freaking Mars.
Mashed potatoes! Yeah, buddy.
All right. Appreciate all the super chats and everything coming in. Mike coming in with a $20 holler. Hey, Mike, did you order another call? I had 2 messages. I thought it was a duplicate. If you didn't, I'm going to call you after this show. But I know you ordered a phone call, but please let me know if you did another one. $20 holler from Mike, my guy. Coming in strong with a 20 wad. Let's go.
Alert. Super chat alert.
$20 super chat. $20 super chat.
Mike says, need trade advice. 12-team Dynasty, 1 QB PPR tight end premium. I would trade away St. Brown, Goff, a 25 third, and a 26 second for Garrett Wilson, Anthony Richardson, 2025 first rounder. I have JD5 as my starter. 1 QB. First of all, I love JD5 as your starter. I love the idea of having Anthony Richardson as well. Let me put it this way. Is Amon-Ra St. Brown ranked higher than Garrett Wilson in my mind? Yeah. But does that mean I don't downgrade him into Garrett Wilson, which is not a big, leap down at all, to get Anthony Richardson and a first rounder? This is mother freaking glory. I smashed the hell out of this trade. Everybody drop your thoughts here. Let me read this one more time. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Goff, a 25 third, and a 26 second for Garrett Wilson, Anthony Richardson, even though he's got JD5, a 2025 first rounder. This is a smash. This is an absolute smash. 100%. There's not a soul in here. God, John, I knew it was going to be John. I was going to say there's not a soul in here that's going to tell you not to do this trade, but of course it's John. Of course it's John. Come on, John. I mean, it's hard to trade St. Brown. It certainly is, but you gotta factor in a couple different things. One, there's a lot of injury concern tied to St. Brown, whether we want to act like that's there or not. It is, and then Garrett Wilson being just as capable on some level, and then you get freaking AR5. AR5 is a league winner. You know, JD5 I love. JD5 is gonna be that hidden gem that could turn into AR5. AR5 is a top 5 QB. So I'm smashing the hell out of that trade. Yeah, John does march to the beat of his own drum. Always. Thank you, Michael. Michael, I take that and I run, bro. Especially like you're getting a first rounder. John, did you read that part? Did you hear that part? You're not only getting Garrett Wilson and AR5, you're getting a first rounder on top of it. There's no need to discuss this with anybody like John. I'll take care of this, Mike. Go ahead and smash it. Chris with the $5 holler. I'm all in on Derrick Henry. I read that one already. Thank you for the super chat, my guy. Dropping fire. Okay, let's get to the next piece of news. Saquon Barkley season's in full effect. Saquon Barkley's not having it. He's upset. He doesn't care what anybody thinks, and he's coming for blood. Give him at least 1 to 2 years of being an elite football player in Philly. I do agree that his third year, because I'm the one that tells everyone this, 28-year-old running backs, you got to be concerned. Saquon Barkley, give him the 2 years. But then, you know, what's in store for him after that, it's tough to say. Does bring a little bit of injury risk to the table as well, but Saquon's going to explode. He's easily capable of being a top 1 to 5 running back in fantasy football 2024. He's easily worth his second round value, whether he goes 13 overall because you want to get bold and crazy, or 17 or 15. Don't take him at round 1 because you don't have to. There are other players I still like more, like Gibbs and a handful of players, but I love Saquon as a second drafted player anywhere inside round number 2, anywhere. This news right here has been kicked around, shot down throughout the entirety of the day. The first rumor dropped that Aiyuk for Adams was being considered by the Raiders. The Raiders were interested in this. The source was very, very, I would say, spotty, because, you know, the originator of the source oftentimes has predicted some good things, but they have no real relevance in the industry. They just happen to be a Twitter account that does call a lot of shots and whatever. So that's not this one. This one's reporting on it, but the Pretty Ricky guy is the one that has predicted some decent things, but it's not like he's an industry, you know, person. So it's a weird source that people use quite often, but it's interesting because, you know, this is obviously something that we've brought up on the show. People have brought up, what about an Adams and Aiyuk trade? It's not something that I think has any sort of potential of happening whatsoever. Because number one, you've got Aiyuk having to sign a long-term deal in order for this to go down. Let me explain something for people that aren't versed in what's about to happen with Brandon Aiyuk if he gets traded. If Aiyuk gets traded, a long-term deal is announced in conjunction with the trade. If Aiyuk does not come to terms with the receiving party, so if it's the Commanders or the Raiders, there's no trade, because not only are you giving up draft capital, you're giving up that draft capital for the long-term investment in the wide receiver. And if the wide receiver is not signed a long-term deal or has the structure of one set up to announce in conjunction with the trade announcement, there's no trade. So how this works is that if Aiyuk was interested in going to the Raiders and the Raiders did want to make the swap, the Raiders would be like on the phone with Aiyuk's camp. They would figure out what the terms of the deal would be. And then Aiyuk would say, this is what I want. They would say, we'll draw it up. And as soon as the trade's announced, boom, this contract gets signed immediately once the trade is announced. Sometimes physicals are taken, like stuff happens all the time. Hollywood Brown had his physical already taken before he got traded to the Arizona Cardinals on draft day that previous year. So just so everybody knows, Aiyuk's no dummy. There's no QB in LV. He has ties to Pierce. People think that ASU connection might connect Aiyuk in a way that he wants to go play for LV, but he's not an idiot. And I said earlier that some of these players don't know. That would be the one thing, the caveat here, is that maybe he has no clue how bad it would be in LV, but Adams knows how bad it is in LV. So there's no way for Aiyuk to want to stamp his approval on this. And you cannot say you're speaking out of turn. You're speaking out of turn and out of pocket, and you're proving you don't know what you're talking about. There's no way this is a situation where Aiyuk doesn't have control over where he goes, because he has to have the contract agreed upon or he's not going to go. And the team's not going to surrender draft capital for a 1-year rental. So Aiyuk does have control of this situation where he goes if he was to get traded. So make sure before you start typing something stupid like, Smitty, he doesn't have a control or say over where he goes. He does. He does. So, this pops up, and, I posted the report. I don't agree with it. I don't think it's going to happen. Someone even asked me, I think on a live stream the other day, do you think that's possible? No, it's not. It's not something that makes any sense. But this report surfaced, and then the report got shut down almost nearly immediately. And so, that's the nature of this. That's why it says rumor. Rumor, not my report. I put it up to have conversations. But Adams did end up releasing a statement on this. And it goes like this. If I were to be reunited with anybody, talking about Pierce, right? It would be Aaron. Or be relocated anywhere, it would be with Aaron. So basically saying not even the Jets, wherever Aaron is where he would go. Aaron Rodgers is the only place that he wants to go. So that kind of solves that. He wants to be a New York Jet. And not to mention, like, he would put a stop on this, to a degree, and put up a fuss about going somewhere. Adams has a little less control because he's under contract, right? Aiyuk is under a 1-year deal, but his movability is all about what his willingness to sign a deal is. So it's very different. But Adams is saying, I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to go anywhere. He has less control, but there's still his desire, what he wants. And unless this situation ended up working out where Aiyuk wanted to go, Aiyuk was willing to sign a contract that was all worked out, there would be a situation where this guy could be moved disgruntled, no doubt about it. But where he wants to go is the New York Jets. Where he wants to hold out hope for is the New York Jets. And I think it was Bruce that asked me, what's the likelihood, which one's more likely, Aiyuk getting traded or Adams getting traded first? And I said that, or at all. And I said the timing's really what it's about. The odds of Davante Adams getting traded to New York before Aiyuk would ever potentially be traded is not good, because this is a situation where LV probably wants to test out the season, see how good they can be. Once they fail, and they probably will fail, then they're going to want to ship Adams away at an old age of 31 years old. Ziggy, how old is Davante Adams? Ziggy, how old is Davante Adams? Let's try this again. Ziggy, how old is Davante Adams? You son of a B.
Davante Adams is 31 years old and was born
December
on
32.
24th,
So the turns 32 in December. Yeah, 57 years old. Thank you, Nate, for clarifying. He's 57 years old. Ziggy off. There's no way the Raiders hold on to him. There's no way. Hold on. Denny's calling in. I gotta put Denny. I'm in the middle of the news, bro. You're gonna have to dial back in. I appreciate you. You got something quick. I'm in the middle of the news, Denny. I gotta roll through this. I'll give you 20 seconds, and then you can call back. What's up? You're live.
I know you like Milton. You like Milton. She's a big boy, and he zips it.
I told you about Milton. I told you about Milton. You're like, I don't know if I like Milton. You called into the show. We had a discussion, and I said I like Milton, and you said no.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Hey,
I'm
Denny,
sorry,
call back in. You might have to watch the show actually to see when the news is over, though. But call back in right when the news is over. All right, later. Anyway, Adams. This isn't gonna happen. Adams to the Niners. The Niners sending Aiyuk. It's not going to happen. Aiyuk's going to make sure of it. There's no quarterback. This is the worst situation a wide receiver could go to. And that's why Adams will be traded at some point during the season, in my opinion. This is why you're hearing Boomer Esiason say it. You're hearing Dan Orlovsky say it. There's a high likelihood that Adams is getting traded because the Raiders are looking at a guy turning 32 during the season, and he has no trade market except for to the New York Jets. The Jets will trade for him. I mean, would the Niners want him in that swap if Aiyuk did want to go? Yeah, maybe, right? But they're not going to do that. Again, you're not getting enough capital because Aiyuk is going to play on his 1 year, his 1 year, 5th year option, and he's not going to sign a long term deal with the Raiders. But the Raiders have they have the luxury in special situations staring them right in the face where Aaron Rodgers says, "Get it done." And Aaron Rodgers isn't texting this. He picks up the rotary phone. He's old school. And he says, "Hey, get it done now. Now, I'm the decision maker here. I run this organization. My name's Aaron Rodgers. I get what I want." And I'm not making fun of him. I love Aaron Rodgers. I'm not making fun of him. I'm merely telling you how it is. This is a very, very unique situation that the Raiders are sitting in front of. They can crap the bed on this now, and the opportunity's still going to be there. Raiders end up potentially trading Adams to the Jets. Now, this makes it a tough conversation in terms of Garrett Wilson. And Michael, who's watching right now with that Garrett Wilson trade advice, it does kind of have some impact. I get that. Adams is older, though. So I don't know that in a dynasty format, I'm worried about a guy that's turning 32 during the season. I don't think that changes that trade that we talked about. Could there be a dip in Garrett Wilson's production once and if Adams does land on the Jets roster for the one remaining part of this year? Maybe. But this could also be one of those situations where he goes there and he gets injured. He's not as quick as we thought he would be. He's 31 years old. He turns 32 this season during the year. That is an old man in wide receiver years. On the Aiyuk front, this is from Schefter, the same guy that said there was no serious consideration for a trade between the Niners and anybody. They didn't ever seriously entertain trading Debo or Aiyuk. Then a week later, he says that the Commanders backed out of a trade. So don't take what Schefter says. Even though we love Schefter for what he is, he's definitely our go-to. Him and Rappaport, they do what they do. And we appreciate what they do. But they oftentimes try and do too much. They try and predict versus report. And they have a gray area where the two worlds collide and you can't tell because they don't clarify. You can't get clarification on Schefter. He likes to be in front of the spotlight in a different fashion than he's intended to be. He doesn't like just being the fat guy that has the open phone line connection. Like, hey, Schefter, what did you hear? Tell us what you heard and we'll break it down because we're smarter than you. He takes great offense to this. And Schefter basically wants to be the guy that gets to do the interpretation. And that's where things get foggy. And we don't know when he's switching back and forth. So he says the Niners do not want and do not intend to trade Brandon Aiyuk despite the fact that he has asked the team officially to move on from him. I highly doubt Schefter's had a one-on-one conversation, and maybe he has, and someone can bring it to me, but had a one-on-one conversation that enlightened him to this degree. This is a Schefterism right here. Schefter is dropping a Schefterism in front of you. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm merely telling you he's done this before several times during the offseason. There was the whole Aaron Rodgers trade debacle during the NFL draft where he came out and said something very sternly, just like this, without any sort of clarification, where his opinion was crossing fact. He's a fact-based reporter. He's not somebody we're going to for a projection, a prediction, or an analysis. But he wants to be that so bad, he blurs the line. And all I'm telling you is, even if the Niners are posturing for this, it might be posturing. Why would you let anybody know your hand? So I don't believe that this is an all done situation. Aiyuk is still trying to create a mess right here for the Niners so that they'll force a trade. But if I had to put a probability on this, my guesswork, my total arbitrary guesswork percentage of him being moved or not, I would put it at something along the lines of 50% likely he still plays on his 5th-year option. That means because the rest of this is divided up, right? I'm taking the additional 50% and dividing that into trade or new contract. So if we go to the board on this one and I write it out, this might shock you because there's no way that this thing is leaning toward like a 70 or 80% chance he's getting traded because the Niners are involved, because Shanahan's involved. 50% chance that he plays on his 5th-year option. That is the greatest percentage of any one thing happening. 50% chance. I would say at this point in time, it's 25% and 25% that he either gets traded or he gets a new deal. And that is not a good percentage chance, and this is my guesswork, that he gets a new deal. That is a very, very bad percentage. They're very far apart. This goes down to like a 10 or 15% chance the moment CeeDee Lamb or Jamar Chase signs a long-term deal extension. Then all of a sudden this goes down dramatically, and the odds of him getting traded maybe go up a little bit, but then this percentage gets kicked up with the excess over here that we're not using. And I don't know, this might go down to 15%, and then we divide up the other percentages into these two areas, and this goes above 50% that he plays on his 5th-year option. But 5th-year option is very, very likely for Brandon Aiyuk, unfortunately, for everybody that wants him to be a Niner next year. And this whole notion that you can franchise tag him no matter what, you don't know what the Niners are capable of doing. This is a team that doesn't usually historically use the tag in such a fashion. Not to mention the tag is so high, and the way that the Niners operate and negotiate, they would be holding all this money, pinning it down, hoping somebody wants to negotiate a long-term deal with Brandon Aiyuk. When you franchise tag, it's the same thing I just described with the 5th-year option trade. Franchise tag would make it to where you would have to work out a long-term deal with Brandon Aiyuk in order to get it done. All right, I'm going to move this over here. We've got some more news to get to. Look, I like this kid a lot, Dontavian Wicks. I don't think he's the number 1 or number 2 wide receiver on the offense. I think that's Jaden Reed and that's Christian Watson. But what I will tell you is this, that if one of those guys gets hurt, and there's a high likelihood that Christian Watson plays really well this year and we get what we've been expecting, there's also a high likelihood, almost, and by high I just mean there's probably an equal chance of both, but those are big percentages, that he ends up being injured, or even though they fixed the problem, he still has long-term hamstring issues and damage that he can't really shake. So if injury occurs, Wicks goes to the moon. I also think that we're talking best ball versus non-best ball. Wicks cuffed to Watson or cuffed to Jaden Reed is a fantastic situation. Very much like cuffing Ricky Pearsall to Deebo Samuel or Pearsall to Brandon Aiyuk. Even if one of them was to get traded like Deebo or Aiyuk and you had Ricky, now you got 2 starters, the way that works. So love Wicks cuffed in best ball and stacked with those Green Bay wide receivers. In fact, drafting Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, and Wicks and Love is actually a very crafty weekly winner approach in best ball fantasy football, underdog fantasy, promo code Smitty. And we'll be drafting tonight. I know I said we'd draft last night, but little Smitty has had, the whole family's been through the pandemic. Everybody had the COVID, and then on top of that, little Smitty got strep throat from it because their immune system was down. So it's been a mess here at Casa de Smitty. But at the end of the day, we're gonna figure it out tonight. We're gonna draft tonight. Underdog Fantasy, promo code Smitty. I just dropped the link in the live chat. Make sure you hit the link right now. Code Smitty will get it done. Let me see if I can load this link and I can pin it for you. But code Smitty will get it done. They'll match your first deposit up to 50%. So you drop 100, they'll give you $50 in bonus cash right into your account that you can use. So make sure you jump into the live stream tonight. Make sure you sign up in advance using promo code Smitty. Wicks is a great player to draft. Fantastic player to draft in Underdog Fantasy. Nico Collins, this report here, his shoulder is expected to not keep him out of opening training camp. Definitely something to monitor. He's had the shoulder issue, and there's not much to be concerned about at this point given this report, but we'll have to monitor Nico. Nico's got a chance to be an amazing wide receiver in 2024. I do think his cost of entry is way too high. I don't like drafting Nico in the second round. Doesn't mean I don't like drafting Nico. I don't like drafting Nico in the second round. I think Tank Dell in round 4 is a screaming steal. He's got the opportunity and potential to be even better, if not equal. Maybe we see a rotation of Nico Dell all year long like we saw before Dell got injured. And so at the end of the day, I'm smashing the hell out of Tank Dell in round 4 versus Nico in 2 when I can get an Achane or a Kyren in round 2 instead. Okay. Let's move this Nico over here. We got Tucker Kraft. This guy can't stay healthy. Luke Musgrave season is upon us. Luke Musgrave. Do we have him on the Moon Man list? I don't even know.
The Moon Man.
We don't.
Dropping loads in outer space.
I don't. Part of me wants to put Luke Musgrave on the Moon Man list. I've been talking Musgrave up all off season long. I'm surprised we don't have him anywhere. Do we have him on the mid-season monster list? Or a revenge tour, because he was injured last year. That's where we have him. I was like, where is he? No! We don't have him anywhere. He's on the revenge tour. He's got to be on one of these. I don't know. Maybe I took him off. I kind of swore I had him somewhere, and I might have bumped him on accident or something. But he's on the revenge tour now. Because, I mean, look, this guy's impressive too. I'm not saying I don't like Tucker Kraft, but he can't stay healthy. It's his second injury he's at. He's, now he's on the physically unable, the PUP to perform list. And so, is he going to be ready for week 1? We hear he is. I mean, that was the last report. That's not speaking to this new PUP situation though, but let's just assume he's ready for week 1. Worst case scenario, Luke Musgrave's been doing everything all off season, right? So Luke Musgrave with an evolving Jordan Love. If you wanted to have and I did this on my tight end show, if you want to have a potential breakout, a guy that could be a top 5 tight end that does not rank anywhere inside anybody's top 10, because every year this happens, and your boy's one of the most accurate in the entire industry. I finished first place in tight end rankings across the entire industry in a rankings contest with every expert you can think of known to man was in this. It wasn't like a small mundane. This is the industry standard ranking evaluation. And your boy Smitty ranked not top 5, I ranked 1 in 2 years in a 3-year window in the tight end rankings. And I'm telling you that I feel very strongly about Luke Musgrave, Dallas Goedert, Jelani Woods, Ben Sinnott, and I'm not saying I don't love these other. I'm talking about breakout, rags to riches potential. It would be Goddard, Musgrave, Sinnott, Jelani Woods. I do like Likely if something happens, but Musgrave feels like the guy. He's got the situation. He's got the size. Ziggy, how tall is Luke Musgrave? Damn, Ziggy.
Sorry, I didn't get that. The internet
How
isn't
tall?
visible.
How tall is Luke Musgrave? I think that I have 2 internets. He's 6'6". How big is he? He's 254 pounds. So Musgrave 6'6", 254 pounds. Jelani Woods 6'7", 200 60 pounds. Ben Sinnott is a monster as well. This is going to be glorious for Luke Musgrave this year. You want to take a stab as your second tight end in a non-best ball. Grab Mr. Luke Musgrave as your second tight end. And I sometimes grab Kraft and Musgrave together as my second tight end, and then I'm drafting, let's say, Kincaid or whatever in best ball. That's fine too. That's all the news for now. Barkley, top 5 running back season incoming. Could it be 1 overall, 2 overall? Could it be like 3 or 4, but he's the rushing leader in the National Football League? He wins the rushing title. absolutely capable. What Swift did in not even the same offense, this is now a Kellen Moore system, but what Swift did over there in Philly is remarkable when you think about it. What do you think this kid's going to do? What do you think Quadzilla's going to do when he gets in there and has one of the best offensive lines he's ever seen in his life? He hasn't even heard stories of offensive lines this good. He's going in, sleepwalking into a top 10 running back season, but he's capable of 1 to 5. Drop it like it's hot. Dial into the show. Your boy is here to answer the call, and we'll discuss all of these topics at hand, whether it be Davante Adams, whether it be Aiyuk. I know some of you are tired of hearing about Aiyuk, but it is, the biggest news. The entire offseason has been dropping this week, but there's not any movement right now on the Aiyuk front other than the Niners, according to Schefter, don't want to trade him. You want to talk about Davante Adams and the Jets. You want to talk about the impact of that with Breece Hall. Dial in. There's so many different players that get affected by a situation like that. If we end up seeing a Davante Adams in New York, there's tons of things we need to discuss about that. Phone lines are open. Dial in.
Call into the show. Call into the show.
Brought to you by theattic.shop. Travis, you are live, young man.
Hey, Smitty, how's it going?
I'm good, bro. A lot of good news today. I think these are good topics. I know a lot of people are getting tired of Aiyuk, and that's why I'm not going to harp on that unless somebody asks me, and it's okay if anybody wants to. I'm not afraid to talk about it. But I think this Barkley news today, although not news necessarily, but just the fact that he's getting a chance to see the incompetence of the organization that was, employing him, and seeing the way they talked about him once they hung up the phone, to see the way they discussed his value as a group, and this clown right here just making a fool of himself, and he thinks he's doing a good job on camera. Like, you watch him and he's sitting there behind his desk with his window. He doesn't even deserve a window. They should take his window away. I'd cement that thing closed if I was the owner. But you're sitting here watching these clowns sit there, and this guy in particular just going, "Yep, you're gonna let Saquon walk. We made the decision." Like, he's making big decisions, like great decisions. The only thing I saw this guy do in the entire staff was not make decisions. They just sat around not making decisions. For everybody to laugh at, a debacle. And Barkley sees it for the first time, like watching a movie and saying, wow, this is how it really went down? Holy crap. Who are you or anyone else to tell me how long I can play? They didn't want to bring him back because he's an old man. We all here are very critical of 28 and 29 years for RBs. But Barkley is a special case that gets the Christian McCaffrey hall pass for 28 years of age. I'm not saying, depending on where I draft him, right? That doesn't guarantee he's going in a certain range or territory for me during that 28-year-old season. But am I going to, when that time comes, am I going to draft him? Depends on the ADP, but my preemptive answer is yes, because he is a special player. He is one of the most special players to ever grace the league. And as I continue to say over and over, you don't know, I don't know, no one knows what he's capable of doing now that he's been handed the best situation you could hand a running back in the National Football League. It's going to be a wild ride, and I'm here for it.
Yep. And, well, it's like, that clip you had on your Instagram where the guy from the Giants is on the phone with Saquon, and he's like, so something along the lines of like, so you'll come back to us, right? And let us know what your market is or whatever. And Saquon was just like, yeah, I already told you where I want to be. It's like,
yeah, he goes, what do you?
Knew it was like completely botched, completely over.
And he did. And he was a man of his word. His agent, and that clip is on my Instagram. His agent answers or calls up, and you can see him talking to him, and they're everyone's in the decision makers are all in the room, and he's like, "What's the offer that he's getting?" And reading off the Eagles' offer, they're not saying who it is though. They won't tell him. He's like, "What's the offer?"
Right.
He's like, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, we're out. Didn't even counter. Didn't say anything. It's like, no, we're not going there. We're not going there. We're out. Hangs up the phone, and then you look around, and they're like this. They're all. Yeah, we avoided that one. We're out, aren't we, guys? And you just look at the guys. One guy puts his hands on his head. They're all just sitting there watching as like minions. No ability to speak up, and they're acting like they made a good move. We're out. We're pulling out. We're calling your bluff. And then the one guy goes, I'm not gonna be able to sleep if he goes to the Eagles. Boom! Goes to the Eagles. How you sleeping, pal? How you sleeping? You tossing and turning at night? Because Saquon's coming for you. Saquon's coming for everybody. I wouldn't be shocked if he ran for 1,450 yards and 14 rushing touchdowns. Not even talking about his receiving work. E-Rock, put yourself on mute. Sounds like you're on a space shuttle. Go ahead, Travis.
I wanted to ask real quick. It's just a trade question because I found it interesting. It's a redraft league, half PPR. He would be giving up Jonathan Brooks and Pacheco, and he would get Barkley and Spears.
Jonathan Brooks and Pacheco for Barkley and Spears. This is a tough one.
Yeah. Originally, it was without Spears in the deal, but I guess he got him to put Spears in the deal.
Pacheco. I'm sorry. Say it again. Pacheco and who?
Brooks.
Brooks.
Pacheco and Brooks.
Brooks.
Yep.
Redraft
half PPR.
for Barkley and Spears. Oh, God. This is tough because in redraft, because Pacheco, while his ADP is in the 4th round or late 3rd to top around 4, and I love it. Pacheco. In fact, I don't know if we did it. This might be tonight's show. Tonight might be putting Pacheco on the Moon Man list. Pacheco is I don't love him if he's getting overdrafted, and I absolutely love him if he's not. Like he's a risky player if you're investing like late 2nd or early 3rd round value. But if he's like essentially your 4th drafted player, even if you got to take him at the bottom of 3 because of the way everybody's falling, and you're borrowing Pacheco into round 3, and then you're drafting your 3rd rounder in round 4. Can you mute yourself, E-Rock, again, if you don't mind? Sounds like you're on a shuttle. You're not tricking us. You unmute it, and we hear a... So hold on, E-Rock. Just be patient, young Padawan. Barkley is getting drafted higher than Pacheco. No doubt about it, but could Pacheco be as good fantasy-wise? He could. This could be a top 5 running back as well. I love Pacheco, especially when you bake in the risk. Now, this is a trade, so like I would say no if it was Barkley for Pacheco. Brooks is such a different, additive here that makes you hesitate. But the thing I'm going to say is, coming off the ACL, we can't guarantee we know how he's going to react. We knew what Breece Hall was. I think we know what Brooks is, but we don't fully know. And so we don't know what the Panthers offense is going to be like. Look how much work Chuba Hubbard got, and it was low efficiency, but tons of volume. I'm going to say this doesn't move the needle enough for me. Spears and PPR especially is still very valuable. I'm going to say the Barkley Spears side at the end of the day wins by not a landslide, because I want to make it clear. I love Pacheco so much, but this is the better side. Give me Barkley.
Yeah, I agree, and only because, by the end of the year, if Brooks just explodes and Pacheco has one of those years, we could, go, oh, man, but I think either way, he's going to come out okay, and I think he's got the edge with what Spears could do and the type of year Barkley could have,
Barkley's going to go crazy, man. He's going to go crazy.
Spears is going to be really valuable in PPR, I think. I know this is only half PPR, but he's going to rack up those points, and we know what Barkley can. Well, people don't know what Barkley can do, I guess I should say. Some people still don't realize it.
I don't know if anybody's ever used to back in the day when there wasn't a lot of dynasty around, and this is how I got into fantasy football. I got into fantasy football, I want to say it was like 1992, 93, somewhere around that territory. And 91, 92, something like that. And I remember after school gathering around the Nintendo set and we just drafted. This was like May, April, June. We draft teams out of a hat, or we pick numbers out of a hat and we draft teams, and then we simulate Tecmo Bowl, or I think it was Tecmo Bowl. I don't even think it was. I don't even think it was. It wasn't Madden. It was Tecmo Bowl. We'd simulate Tecmo Bowl.
Yeah.
We'd simulate it, and then we'd all have $5 in the pot, and we'd play the season out, and instantly, and we'd see who had the better season. And I remember when it would simulate, you'd see somebody jump up like Andre Reed. Some of you don't even know who Andre Reed is, which makes me feel old, but you'd simulate it, and Andre Reed would be like the number one wide receiver through like 8 weeks. And you'd be like, what? That doesn't make any sense. I mean, he's good, but it doesn't make any sense that he's number one. Right. Where's Jerry Rice? And it's like, I feel like this is that situation where in week 4, we're going to look at the top running back in the National Football League. We're going to see Barkley potentially sitting there. And it's going to feel like that odd simulation that we would do. And I can see it right now that everybody's going to be looking back at this like they are Achan and Kyron too, and saying, why did I not think this was going to work? Like, we know how good he is. Right. He's literally been handcuffed. Right. He's been handcuffed, and then his handcuffs are handcuffed down to his legs. And that's how he's been running the football in New York. He's completely free as a bird now. And I don't think people realize what he's going to do. I don't think they have a clue. Let me go over to Justin real quick, and go over to E-Rock, who's, we don't know when he's leaving the atmosphere, and we could lose him in any second.
Yeah, go for it.
Let's go to E-Rock first, then to Justin. No, actually, Justin's been waiting a long time. Justin, go ahead. E-Rock, stay on mute real quick. Justin, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to follow up on kind of what you were saying with the Hard Knock stuff. That clip made me lose, and I don't have any respect for the Giants organization,
right,
to begin with. Let's be clear, but just the way they were kind of talking about him, and how frankly full of crap they seem to be, because it's they're acting like they appreciate him, and they're acting but they're talking about him being 27 like he's 32 or something. And they're well, who else is out there? Singletary's out there. Well, Josh Jacobs is out there. It seems like Saquon Barkley is probably going to get the most money. Yeah, you should have confidence he's probably going to get the most money.
This is running back money too. It's ridiculous when people come in and they say things. I saw a couple comments. I forget. One was from John, but we see a bunch of comments that are but they're trying to build. They don't want to bring in an older running back. If you believe Danny Dimes is the guy, then you believe you have a chance to win. They clearly don't believe they have a chance to win. And when they in this episode say, if we don't get JD5, then we'll just roll with Dimes and surround him with talent. You are so incompetent. You think that's going to be a winning formula. It's unbelievable. The whole thing is this. The decision-making team that's going to be at the helm in the 2025 draft making the quarterback decision is the same team that locked up Danny Dimes. This is not going to end well. They obviously don't know what in the hell they're doing. They just don't know what they're doing. A bunch of imbeciles is what they probably remind you of.
What they remind me of is somebody who just they went into the casino, and it's just not their night. They made some stupid decisions at the casino. They put 1,000 on red. Now they're trying to take loans out and just compound just the stupid decision, because it starts with Danny Dimes. Now it's okay, we know we made a mistake.
I don't know what the hell he's talking about.
So let's try to, in some weird, scared way, rectify it by getting rid of our best player.
All right, hold on one second, Justin.
It just makes no sense.
I hear you. I don't. Just kidding, Justin. Appreciate you. E-Rock, let's go to E-Rock real quick. E-Rock, go ahead. You're live.
Justin. I was on CarPlay. I took it off speaker. But it's a little bit better now.
Yeah, a little bit better. No problem. Don't worry about it. We just had to remedy it. But go ahead. What's up, E-Rock? Hit me with it.
Oh man, I want to talk about this Garrett Wilson thing, dude.
Yeah.
With Davante. He's 32, but he got 1,200 yards last year. I think he's far from cooked. with your first round pick, man, I think that's just too much risk already baked in that we know about. There's just so many guys, man. Puka, Marvin. If you have to go wide receiver, I'd probably rather have those two guys over Garrett Wilson right now. I mean, that's just. I think if Davante Adams goes to the Jets, and that's the only place he's going to get traded to, I think that's just way too much risk right out the gate for Garrett Wilson. I just breaks my heart to say it.
I mean, look, I've posed the question. You know, like, so it's not like I'm not thinking about it. At the end of the day, I'm not going to make a decision to avoid Garrett Wilson on spec, though, and spec that has a lot of moving parts. I think that would I draft Garrett Wilson in every league now? No. Like, but I don't know that I would have anyway. But is this making me say, okay, I'm going to diversify the portfolio a little bit? Then yeah, like this is going to move the needle for that conversation. But I don't think I'm avoiding Garrett Wilson as a whole at all because of Davante Adams' threat. But it is something to consider. It's why I brought it up. You know, even like Breece Hall gets affected a little bit if they're throwing more to Davante Adams. They're like, everyone's going to give a little bit for Adams to make room for Adams. So everyone's going to sacrifice if this happens. It's tough to say. It's tough to say what I don't fault you for saying, hey, this scares me out of drafting Garrett Wilson. I can't fault you, but I can say there's still a strong chance you're going to live to regret it. Because Garrett Wilson, against every single coverage known to man, his success rates through the roof. Like, he just looks like an absolute top 5 wide receiver monster. And I think the trauma of last year makes it very hard to bank on him, to bet on him. And I understand that. Then you throw in another little bit of risk, and it really kind of brings back that PTSD of Garrett Wilson falling off a cliff and having no ability to get good footballs thrown his way. I get it. It's certainly understandable why you're feeling this way, because you're getting. It's almost like, you know, hard to explain. I'm trying to think of a scenario, but like if you've ever been in a car accident or whatever, and you know, for a while you see the brake lights on somebody and you just, you know, you have a reaction, or you see a red light and you like, or a yellow light, you just slam on your brakes and you don't run the light. I think we're seeing the red light. We're seeing somebody tap the brakes, and that brake tap is Davante Adams' conversation. And we're like, whoa, Garrett Wilson just screwed me. Am I going to really do this again? I get it. I don't disagree with you that there's some fear there. But I would just say don't avoid him altogether. And if that means that you don't draft him in any of your redraft leagues, your non-best ball leagues, maybe that's the compromise. Then scoop up a bunch of Garrett Wilson on Underdog Fantasy, promo code Smitty, so at least you can partake in some Garrett Wilson explosions if it ends up being the case. You know what I mean? That would be the best way to diversify.
That's what I was supposed to lead with. I wasn't trying to say avoid him at all costs. I was saying best ball, he could still burn you. If the trade isn't even a for sure thing, so you don't want to have zero exposure, but I'm just saying, so like casual drafters and, you know, 1 or 2 leagues, home leagues with buddies, I'm saying, you know, like in my couple of my home leagues with like close friends, you know, I just don't know if I can pull the trigger on that. Best ball, Dynasty, I'm all in, man. Like, the talent's there. Davante's not going to be around forever. He already was, wide receiver 17 2 years in a row with no quarterback. So I'm not saying don't draft him. I'm just saying, you know, be cautious if it's your 1 or 2 home leagues. That's all I'm saying.
Calvin Crimp says if A-Rod gets Adams, Lazard, or Williams has to go. Lazard, Williams. Yeah, I mean, look, as of right now, Malachi Corley is the second wide receiver on the team because Mike Williams is supposed to be, but he's not even healthy. So there's no concern about. Somebody gets bumped out, but like it's not like they necessarily get released, but I don't think I was counting on anybody but you know, Garrett Wilson. Now there is something too though. Like could Aaron Rodgers still feed Garrett Wilson near the same amount? Like think about it from the perspective of how many quarterbacks have multiple passing options that they're feeding. Like Mahomes is still feeding Kelsey, and he was feeding Tyreek Hill for a long period of time. You got Kirk Cousins throwing to Justin Jefferson, to Hawkinson, to Jordan Addison. You've got tons of these examples, even Houston last year with Tank Dell and Nico Collins. And so it's like, to me, it kind of gets wild when a new player gets injected into the conversation and everybody's reaction is to just run away. I don't know that even if Adams landed on roster that it makes Garrett Wilson drop a ton. I think Rodgers is still capable of having, 2 and 3 touchdown games. So maybe Garrett Wilson still gets plenty fed. Also, again, circling back to the fact that he's 31 years old. I know you said he's still got a lot left, you think. I don't know that that's the case, though, bro, because the numbers don't lie. He turns 32 during the season. Having a productive... doesn't matter what he had last year.
1,200 yards.
It doesn't matter, though. He's 32 years old during the season. Like, there's something that happens to it's just the odds of it are extremely against him having the same exact
with
ability.
Outliers, with Henry an elite player, you got outliers.
Henry you can't even use. That is an outlier beyond outliers. I'm still reverting straight back to the 28-year-old year. Like, it doesn't matter that Henry's 30 years old. You say, okay, now he's breached this, portal. He's opened this portal for all running back. Not the case. Henry's completely irrelevant to the 28-year-old running back theory. And on top of that, like, 32 years old for a wide receiver, and I know he's changing teams to a familiar offense because any Aaron Rodgers offense will be familiar to him. Aaron Rodgers is familiar to him. This is still not one of those situations where you can just lock in Davante Adams as a guy that's going to be a top 5 wide receiver. I definitely am going to be excited about it if it happens from a New York Jet perspective. From an Aaron Rodgers perspective, it's going to be a little bit of a nut kick. Sorry, dial in again. I think that's Bruce calling in. But I'm just trying to say, don't act like, I'm not saying to you specifically, but don't act like this thing is for sure. That Adams at 32, it could be just the exact wrong year. The final last attempt to get Adams in the hands of Aaron Rodgers again, and it falls short because they do it when he's 32 years old. 32 years old is a tough age for a wide receiver. This is where a receiver gets banged up and then everybody blames it on the injury. Well, if he didn't get hurt, that's part of the reason. Like, Christian McCaffrey could be electric for 4 straight weeks, get injured, and then everybody says, well, if he didn't get hurt, that's the thing. You're 28 years old as a running back. Your likelihood of getting injured is skyrocketing from 27. At 31, 32, injury history or injury likelihood for a wide receiver skyrockets. Not to mention Adams got abused last year, getting hospital ball after hospital ball after hospital ball. Like, this could be one of those things where Adams is electric but can't stay on the field. We'll have to see.
But I'm just saying, I'm not making a case for Adams to be a leader. I'm just saying, if Adams goes to the Jets, I no longer believe Garrett Wilson has a first-round ceiling. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying he won't be a top 15 wide receiver. I'm just saying if Adams does go to the Jets, I don't believe Wilson has that first-round ceiling that you draft. Right? I think if Adams goes there, top 5 is out of the question. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, like I said, worth the conversation, which is why we've had it. I don't, there's too many moving parts to not draft Garrett Wilson. I just don't. Not to mention, at what point does it happen during the season? There's a lot of moving parts to it. Okay, let me go over to Bruce. Bruce, you're live.
On the topic, I have a question. Would you draft Davante Adams thinking he's going to get traded there? Or would you, not take a chance on that?
No, I don't think I could. I don't think I could. Like, where am I drafting him? If it's where he's going right now in the second round, the answer is no. Because even if he goes to the New York Jets, he's going to a crowded situation. And the same feelings you have about Garrett Wilson, if you're worried about Garrett Wilson, you got to be worried about Davante Adams' production too, because how can they both completely eat? They'll probably do a rotational Nico Tank Dell thing from last year, is my guess, but they still could be productive. It's just like, what point in the season does it happen? Will it happen? Can you make assumptions of this trade going down and make decisions based on the assumptions? I just think you avoid him too many times, you're going to regret it, Garrett Wilson. As far as Adams, I can't take him in the second round, period. Because he still has to play a big chunk of time in LV before he ends up getting traded. he's still got a chance of getting injured by these hospital balls. He's going to continue to get fed in LV until he gets traded. The Jets have to accept the draft capital, situation in terms of the trade, and we don't know if they're going to be asking too much in LV. LV doesn't want to get rid of him. I think that it's logical to get rid of him if you're watching a wide receiver turn 32 during the season and you're not winning and you need to get something for him. He's going to be what he wants, and I think Pierce might want to not necessarily give him away because he wants to, but he will keep Adams, in his consideration. But no, I'm not drafting Adams on the assumption, the speculation that he's going to be traded. I can't. Not when there's so many amazing players, bro, like Achane and Kyron Williams and players like that sitting in round 2. No way. No way. Does it give me hope that he's on the do not draft list for me? But do I have hope that I could take him off that? If like you can't take him off after the draft's over and everything, but I'm saying like he's not going to be in that thought process for me anymore. If he's in New York, I'll be like, okay, if you own him, this could really work out for you. Anybody that drafted him in the second round and you shouldn't have, but you're still probably looking at well over half a month of him not doing as well as you want in LV. But we'll see. We'll see, my guy. All right, hold on, Bruce. Oh, go ahead, Bruce. One final thought, and I'm going to go back to Travis. Go ahead.
Okay, because I was kind of thinking, like, as we were talking about it, I was like, well, maybe I should draft him maybe in like 1, maybe 2 best ball drafts on the assumption he's going to get traded.
No, because in best ball specifically, you can't afford 4 weeks of something not going the way you want it. Like if you believe he's going to do well in Las Vegas and in New York, that transitioning teams is going to be fine. Keep in mind that when you get traded, you're out a week. Usually it will be wild if the bye weeks lined up where he played 18 games or something. That can also happen. But I forget when the Raiders bye week is. But yeah, it's tough to say. But I'm certainly not. I'm not on board Davante Adams on speculation. Travis, would you draft him any higher or lower based on speculation? I mean, it's okay if you would. I wouldn't, but
Davante, no.
Yeah,
no, not until we're like almost positive something's going to happen. Then maybe I might try to get ahead of the crowd and take him in a couple drafts. But I'm talking like you're hearing it's almost a done deal.
Yeah.
And I might take a chance then, but it's got to be like that close, and then where something would have to fall through, and even then I'm still just taking a couple to get ahead of people that start pushing the ADP up. But
and this report, this is being spread around right now too. There's a lot of like trash talk going around, players talking about former teams, a lot of the Hard Knocks and the wide receiver video or Netflix show that came out. All this stuff is just triggering a lot of like questions, and players are talking about their former teams and just all this trash talk. Jacobs is talking about Raiders culture in a very negative way, talking about how they got a losing mentality, and he just can't, he could never understand, losing games and the way that they go about how they carry themselves. And I know Pierce is supposed to bring a whole different mentality to the table, and I think he has. That's why Davante Adams is okay playing for the Raiders again. But this team has done nothing besides drafting Brock Bowers, which I like. They've done nothing to change where the passing game direction is going. And to crap the bed so hard on Bo Nix and Penix Jr., I don't want to hear somebody say they didn't know they would get taken. That's why you're the decision maker. That's why you go trade up for Penix Jr. There was 100% a sort of level of risk that Penix Jr. would not be there, because a lot of people were getting excited about him finally. We kept saying it all offseason, and Bo Nix too. There's talk about Penix Jr. Bo Nix both going before that Raiders pick. The Raiders absolutely diarrheaed all over the bed. And Adams, so frustrated with those hospital balls, is going to see a lot of the same with the quarterback rotation at some point. And I just think that, getting him traded out of LV is possible. And the only suitor at the ripe age of turning 32 during the season, the only suitor would be the Jets because of Aaron Rodgers. So it is the landing spot. I can almost assure you of that. I just don't know if it's all going to play out.
And you run the risk if Adams gets shipped to somewhere, I don't know if he has a no trade, but if he got shipped to somewhere he doesn't like, he could just shut it down too. And that's another thing that worries me about, the Raiders and stuff. Like, I guess Jacobs is gone now, but I don't get these guys that it kind of speaks to their personality, I guess. They know cameras are on them and they're saying these things. Like, it's one thing if you talk to your teammates about it, but they obviously want to get this out there to the public, and it's just, I don't know, it's kind of a bad look, not real classy. We're just throwing that stuff out there to me. I mean, you might disagree, but that's kind of a red flag to me, because if they're going to talk bad about their last team, they'll talk bad about you if they leave too. So it's like, I wouldn't be like, encouraging that if I was Pierce or any other coach.
Yeah. Let's go back over to Justin. What else you got, Justin?
Yeah, my thing with Davante Adams too, like to kind of piggyback off what Travis is saying, is like, to me, if I make a bad decision, and everybody sees I make a bad decision, I kind of shut up. Like, you know what I'm saying? I feel like he knows he made a bad decision with the whole Derek Carr thing. But, he's just, now he's, whining and complaining. And it's one thing if you want to be traded, but, like Travis is saying, he's being really loud with it. And I've lost a lot of respect for him as, a professional in, the past 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. What do you think, where do you guys think Barkley, where does Barkley finish this year? Let me go around the ring. Let's go to let's start off with Justin since he's talking. Barkley finishes as running back what in 2024?
Gun to my head, 6. Running back 6.
Bruce, Barkley running back what?
1.
Woo! Bruce, he wants it. Travis, running back what? Barkley.
4.
And E-Rock.
No way he finishes worse than 8. 4 to 8.
Wow. So we got 1, 4, 6, 8. I'm going to call it, God, it's so hard because if I say a number and then I actually go through the exercise of ranking them, he doesn't rank at the spot that I'm putting him at. But that's the nature of projections and predictions. I would say I'm going to put him at 6 as well. So 6 is where I have him. I think 6 to 10 is perfect. I think that sets the expectation too, that you're getting what you pay for out of Barkley if you draft him, and his range of outcomes is easily running back 1. Easily running back 1. He's going to be an absolute monster. All he's got to do is just stay healthy, which, there's injury risk, but it's very easy to overlook when he's going to play behind an amazing offensive line. Part of some of the injury risk you can attribute to playing against stacked boxes, getting hit harder than any other running back in the league, running the brick walls over and over and over again. This guy plays running back like no other running back in the league. Maybe Kyron and him play similar in that they put their body at risk on every play, which is kind of a bad and a good thing at the same time. But these guys will try and get an extra yard, hang themselves up, and get smashed by 4 or 5 people. So Barkley's going to be unreal. I mean, he is the definition of win a league second round potential. Where a second rounder, as high as that is, has win a league potential. Achane, win a league potential. Kyron, win a league potential. Mahomes in 4 or 5 on best ball, win a league potential. Hurts on best ball in round 4, win a league potential. non-best ball, those quarterbacks are still win a league potential in round 3. But, yeah. And as for some of the chatter in terms of landing spot for Aiyuk, I mean, it really is the Commanders. We talked about this yesterday. I don't think there's another scenario where he goes somewhere else. We broke all this down. I could potentially put these teams back up real quickly and go over it. Niners are the most likely team on the far right to have Aiyuk services in 2024. Chargers, almost zero chance. This is the same team that whispered in Keenan Allen's ear, said, "I know you're a wide receiver 3 last year, but will you take a pay cut? If not, get out of here." They're not bringing in Brandon Aiyuk on a $31 million a year deal that gives him $80 million guaranteed, which is what would be required in a trade. Whoever trades for Aiyuk's going to pay extra because teams are going to have to make a deal in order to get the contract signed in order to make the deal happen. So the overpay is going to happen. The Cardinals, probably not likely. The Buffalo Bills is more than ideal, but it doesn't seem like they're looking in that direction. They're not even really interested, I think, in that kind of thing. Washington, obviously, JD5 wants it. I think Adam Peters probably wants it. He helped pick Aiyuk out, when they went and drafted him, So, I mean, New England Patriots, they're definitely interested. I just don't know to what degree. They're definitely, I would say, one of the top 3 interested parties if there is anybody we'd throw in with the Commanders. Baltimore should be. I don't know that they will. Steelers, there's no way that they're going to pay him. Not to mention, you don't want Aiyuk there anyway. It's just not. It's not the best situation for him in Pittsburgh. That's not where you're going to get the most out of him. You're not going to get the most out of him in Pittsburgh. Unfortunately, New England's tough. It depends how quickly Drake May evolves. I don't want to say that you won't get the most out of him there, but that could be a situation where it's like a year delay. Cardinals, it's tough. I mean, that's crowded. Chargers, absolute garbage. I don't want them there at all. They're not going to use them enough. Buffalo would be fantastic. Washington would be fantastic. Dare I say, Buffalo and Washington are better than San Francisco, where he's not getting. Who's making? Can you guys mute? Somebody's like doing laundry or something. There's a whole bunch of noise. There's definitely not enough targets to go around in San Francisco. That's why they can't pay him St. Brown money, because they've said, we're not using you like St. Brown. You may be as good as St. Brown in your mind, and some people might agree with that. Some people might laugh at that. But we don't use you enough to be paying you St. Brown money. So those landing spots are tough, but I think the Commanders are really the landing spot. Just like I think there's no real landing spot other than New York for Davante Adams. Matt dropped a $5 holler, says 14-team redraft league. Pick trade proposal. I have pick 8 and he has pick 7. I trade a second, a third, and a 5th rounder for the 1, 5, and 8. Let's see here. So 21, 36, and 64 for number 7 and 63 and 106. That's tough. 36 overall. I mean, so you're talking about 21 and 36. That's you're just giving up a 36 overall pick essentially. So that is a.
He'd have the 7th and 8th pick.
Yeah, he would, but
right.
but in terms of just the trade, he's giving up a 36 overall to get that pick. Like, he's moving 21 up, which is great, but he's getting rid of 36 overall. So 21 is like Saquon Barkley, Achane, Kyron, and number 7 overall is St. Brown, maybe Breece Hall if you're lucky, A.J. Brown, Puka Nacua. Like, give me Kyron or Achane and not lose that 36 overall, to be honest, bro. I mean, 36 overall, you're still talking about, depending on where quarterbacks are valued, that is Mahomes, that is Jalen Hurts. And I specifically tell people this, when you're talking about that kind of difference between a trade or a no trade, let's say you're trading for those 2 picks, if you make that 36 overall count and you get something you couldn't possibly get later, like let's say you took Keenan Allen there or DJ Moore, you could replace that. Maybe Christian Watson outscores DJ Moore. You can't burn that pick, that advantage on something that's maybe replaceable. Mahomes, Hurts, Laporta, McBride, like somebody like that. That's a difference maker. I don't even know if I'd say Laporta. I'd rather go later tight end. I don't really draft Laporta right now. But I would definitely say you get a quarterback. Kyren and Mahomes crush whatever, even if it's Breece Hall. It crushes Breece Hall. Achane and Mahomes crushes Breece Hall. And I love Breece Hall. So
what would it have to look like for you to do a trade like that? Like what would you give up to get that? Pick, I guess.
I'm in the business of getting what he's giving. Like I feel like because Kyren and Achane are staples in round 2, or Barkley or whoever, if I'm getting one of those guys, if you tell me they're all going to be gone, then it changes my perspective a little bit. But you give me Kyren or Achane, you can't pry that away from me by giving me a 7 or an 8, or even Jamar Chase. Like, you give me 36. At 36, I could draft Tank Dell. I could draft maybe even Cooper Kupp or DK or Devontae Smith falls. You give me that player with Kyren, and I'm smashing the hell out of any player you give me. So I'm more in the business of, I love the 2nd and 3rd and 4th round this year, and even 5th round. I very much love those picks. If I can get 2 of those 2nd and 3rd round pick for the 1st overall, like I'd trade the 1st overall. I'd trade CeeDee Lamb to get somebody's 2nd and 3rd rounder. I'm not saying to give a 2nd and 3rd rounder for a 1st and 4th rounder. That is not what I'm saying. That is trying to do an even Steven swap where you're giving up the best value in the draft in an even trade. I'm talking about getting somebody's 2nd and 3rd rounder for the 1 overall. I'm talking about getting somebody's 2nd and 4th rounder for a 7 overall. And I take that every single time. Every time. Thank you, Matt, for the super chat. Go ahead, Travis, if you got anything else.
So with the Garrett Wilson thing, like, even if Davante Adams was there, I guess the one thing is his targets would go down, because I think it was like 168 targets or something he had. But you have to think, like, touchdowns would probably go up, everything else would go up, his efficiency. So, I mean, I still think, like, at worst you're looking at like a top 15 guy, and he could still end up being, the number 1 guy if Adams gets hurt. Or, I mean, there's definitely red flags to consider there, I guess, but it wouldn't scare me off him too much.
Yeah, I think to not draft him on that spec is more reckless than drafting him, is what I would say. Let me play Rockout's message real quick.
Giants really thought I was finished. I'm just getting started. I'm Saquon Barkley. You decided to pay Daniel Jones. You played yourself. Now I'm coming back, and I'm going to make you remember like it's straight October. And it's over. I'm Saquon Barkley.
Poetry with Rockout. Rockout, thank you for the $2 holler. And the sweet nothings you just whispered in all of our ears. We will never be the same because of it, in a very positive way. Rockout, appreciate you. Yeah, Garrett Wilson, I think this is where I'll say, I think it was E-Rock, I think he hung up. I agree, and this is why I posed it earlier. Like, we need to talk about the impact. I'm not trying to run from the impact at all. Mm-hmm. I think the best way I can explain it is that I'm going to take Garrett Wilson a little bit more often in best ball than in non-best ball. Just because you also have that, if there is a rotational aspect to Garrett Wilson and Davante Adams down the road, that best ball saves you from making a bad start. And Garrett Wilson gets yanked from your lineup optimally. In an optimal format, you get another receiver that pops in like Jaden Reed or whatever that week. But I will say, if I'm ranking Garrett Wilson, I still feel like here is round number 1. He's right here at that turn, Garrett Wilson. is fantastic in this territory. Like maybe I'm taking MHJ sometimes over Garrett Wilson because of the threat of Adams potentially entering into the equation. Maybe when I'm forced to go Garrett Wilson and let's say Gibbs is sitting there in best ball, I'm 90% of the time going Gibbs, and then once in a while trying to go a wide receiver built strategy, I might 100% of the time now be drafting Gibbs in this scenario. So that's the kind of micro movements that are probably happening in my mind, if I'm being completely honest, of the threat of Davante Adams. But if Garrett Wilson falls into the top of round 2 because of this threat, then I don't think I'm running away whatsoever from him. Like, would I take London over him? I'm not going to lie. I love London so much, I could consider that. But once London's gone, and he's usually the MHJ and London are the final 2 wide receivers that can float at that 2.1, 2.2, 2.3. Once London's gone and MHJ's gone, it's Garrett Wilson. Like, he returns immediately back to that rank. So that's the most I could see Garrett Wilson falling in my mind, is into the London and MHJ bucket and right below both of them. That's it. That's the biggest drop I'm going to have Wilson fall to. And even in that case, if he fell on the consistent below London, below MHJ, and I don't think that's going to happen because I think people aren't thinking this thing out like that. I don't think many people are preemptively like envisioning this to unfold that way. I just don't think it's going to affect the market value for him. But if it did, I'd probably go into I'm overdrafting Garrett Wilson if he's sitting in the top compartment of round number 2 on the consistent. Then all of a sudden I'm overdrafting him. I'm drafting him a lot because he's definitely worth drafting there. I mean, you're talking about wide receiver 10. Garrett Wilson at wide receiver 10. MHJ's going around wide receiver 9, 10. If he goes below London and below MHJ, that's wide receiver 10. This is best ball too. If we go into non-best ball mode, which is wide receivers will all fall a little bit because RBs will get drafted a little higher in non-best ball, all of a sudden Garrett Wilson going below MHJ and London, if that in fairy tale land happened, instead of going at 2.3, a London in that situation is going middle of round 2. So I don't see a world where I'm scared away from Garrett Wilson. I just see a world where maybe I'm making micro movements in different directions, 1 or 2 spots that do have me not drafting him as much, just because I'm moving him slightly, just slightly. But Garrett Wilson, you've got to have shares of him this year. He's going to explode this year. If Adams doesn't end up there, he could have a number 3, number 4 wide receiver overall season. And we're going to be sitting here, reflecting back going, remember when I didn't trade him because of Adams? 32-year-old Davante Adams that never got traded, that ended up getting hurt in a Las Vegas system that threw him hospital balls yet again for his 2nd straight season. So, I don't know. Let me get these super chats here. Isa says, you're the best kept secret in fantasy, Smitty, and your dedication to your community is second to none. Take my money and keep the content coming. Thank you, Joke. Appreciate you dropping the $5 hauler. You're getting a moonshot for that one, bro.
To the moon.
Appreciate you very much. Frankie, I'm just gonna tell you, tread lightly, because you've been, how should we say, nudged away from the community because of some of the negativity that you bring, and you come straight back in and just start doing it again. You're on such thin ice, bro. You're on such thin ice. Start walking the line. And I don't mean that in a like this is Smitty's a dictator of this situation. We're talking about human decency line. And I appreciate your super chat. And this goes to show that, the super chat money doesn't control the temperature of the chat. It's more important to keep the chat in a non-hostile environment than worry about a $2 super chat. So I'm willing to tell you that. Sun God missed 2 games in his career, not injury risk. What are you talking about? You're coming into a Sun God environment and you're trying to talk down my Sun God thinking and how I feel about St. Brown. I merely said He has been banged up. There's that part to consider. He's constantly been injured, okay? There's always something going on. Doesn't mean that scares me in the slightest, but it is a factor in something that you would consider. There have been injuries. Let's not act like he didn't play through them. He ripped his abdomen, bro, or his, what was that report? He ripped the muscle completely off the bone and played through it the entirety of the season.
Oblique.
Yeah, it was oblique. He ripped his oblique off the bone and played through the entirety of the season. And you're coming in here trying to act like I'm down on St. Brown, like you're higher on St. Brown than I am. I see you in the chat constantly saying that Tank Dell is you're highest on Tank Dell. I told you about Tank Dell, Frank. I told you about Tank Dell, and you're not higher on St. Brown than me. I'm higher on St. Brown than you, Frank. Okay, so you're in the wrong room to be doing that. Just so you know. Appreciate your $2 super chat. Okay, Chris with the $20 hauler. Chris coming in strong with the wad on screen. Chris, appreciate you, my guy.
Alert. Super chat alert.
$20 super chat. $20 super chat.
Okay. Chris, appreciate you. 12-team Dynasty startup. 0.5 PPR. I have MHJ Achan so far. You've got yourself a nice little bag of glory right there, Chris. Appreciate that. On round 3, pick options are Adunze, Jalen Hurts, Kenneth Walker, Pacheco, Rashad White, McBride, DJ Moore, Nico, Zay Flowers, Bowers, Metcalf. I have one guy ahead. Who should I take? For me, this is easy, bro. I don't care if it's one QB. I know it's one QB because Hurts wouldn't be there in round 3, but you smash the hell out of Jalen Hurts, in my opinion. I love Pacheco, I do, but I love him in round 4 more than I love him in round 3, especially with, a dynasty. McBride's fantastic, but not in round 3. Love him in round 4. Everyone here belongs in round 4 except for Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, you grab Jalen Hurts, you got MHJ, you've got Achan, you've got yourself a trio that is built to withstand a decade. So Smitty approved Jalen Hurts by a mile.
You've just been Smitty approved.
Frank just does not let things go either. He doesn't know when. He doesn't even see. I don't think he sees things like other people. I think he's blinded by whatever he's focused on. There's risk involved. I've already said that, Frank. There's risk involved that we ignore. It's there. You have to look at it when all things are equal. You're looking at 2 receivers. One doesn't get hurt. The other's ripping off his oblique. He plays harder than anybody. A determination in his eyes. Grit that nobody else has. Is a great quality. But Amon-Ra does come with a little bit of injury risk that we usually ignore every single time, Frank. You're not proving anything. You don't like Amon-Ra St. Brown more than I do. You don't like Tank Dell more than I do. I told you about both of them, Frank. You didn't know either existed. If you weren't watching this show, Frank, put some respect on it. Frank, put some respect on it. It's weird when it's weird. It's really weird when someone comes into a stream and they say something like, Smitty, Kyron's gonna do good. You'll see. It's like that. That's what this feels like. You'll see. He does that. Tank Dell. Tank Dell's gonna do it. You'll see. Come on, Frank. Everyone knows what room they're in. There's no convincing me about Amon-Ra St. Brown. What are you doing? Hoosiers with the $5 hauler. If Adams were to get traded to New York, I just struggle to see Garrett Wilson over him. Also, can completely understand it too. I don't disagree with anybody that has the thinking of I'm not going near it. I walked you through my process and the fact that it just moves them from here to like the top of or this compartment in round 2 that's got about 4 players in it. And I could see myself moving Garrett Wilson all the way down to the 4th player there. You got MHJ, you got London, but that's it. I'm not moving him on spec any more than that. And the reason I can do that is I love those players just as much. So you inject a little risk. This is like the Amon-Ra conversation. You inject a little risk, and then now you weigh it out. Does the risk even do anything? In many cases, the answer is no. The risk is very hard to measure as well. Hoosiers appreciate you, and I don't disagree. There's some risk involved. I don't.
Another thing is that even if Adams were to go there and Adams connects back with Rodgers and like becomes the guy, Wilson can still have plenty of value. I think it's another thing I was trying to get at, where, you know, just in terms of targets, even if his targets come down, he can still produce a top 12 to 15 season even with Adams there.
Yeah. It's not an easy decision to make when you're wrestling with a new amount of risk that is risk, whatever amount we want to suggest that it is a cup full of risk that is now sitting in front of us with a player that traumatized everybody. Garrett Wilson traumatized every single one of us because we had an expectation. Aaron Rodgers was at the heart of why it all fell apart. We knew Garrett Wilson was elite. We knew London was elite. We knew Bijan was elite. We knew Kyle Pitts was elite. We have this trauma that we all knew. We know what we're looking at, and we got kicked in the nutsack. And we had an
Don't forget Brees.
Well, Brees is second out of all RBs in 2024, so he came around.
You said,
but it was
you said last year.
Yeah,
you brought him last year, and he proved it.
Well, that's a good point, Bruce. That it comes down to like everybody. Remember all the people that come in and say, "Smitty, you're wrong on Brees Hall. He's not going to have a great bounce back year. I'll be in on 2025." Do you remember how many people would come in and say, "Brees Hall, no in 2024, yes in 2025"? That was such a common phrase that people would drop in the comments, and we'd drag it on and we'd be like, "It's different, bro. Don't listen to people. Listen to me. When it comes to injuries, listen to me, because I'm bringing a different angle than these fantasy football doctors that are playing fantasy. I am playing doctor, I admit it, but I've got 23 plus professional years of speaking to these exact injuries as it relates to players playing on them. You want somebody that can bring that to the table more than anything. Brees is a great example because everybody said avoid him, just like people are going to say maybe avoid Garrett Wilson, or people are going to say, oh, I still worry about the Falcons or something. There's a solution in Atlanta that's foolproof. You got Penix Jr., you got Cousins. I sleep like a baby. Any Atlanta Falcons share I have, I don't have that same feeling that I have. I still have that small same feeling. It's little, but I still have it of what happens if Aaron Rodgers blows the other Achilles and Garrett Wilson, we're stuck with this again. You know, I'm scared about it. That's why Fields should be a New York Jet. That's crazy. Thank you, Bruce, but good comment. Denny, you're live. What's up, Denny?
I just heard you talk about Fields.
Yeah.
I think I got some feelings about Fields. No, I just heard you say that. Yeah.
All right.
I think
What
Fields
up?
gonna be all right.
Yeah. What else you got, Denny? Hey, Denny, do you think Davante Adams plays for the New York Jets in 2024? Does he get traded to Aaron Rodgers? Does Davante Adams reunite with Aaron Rodgers? That's the rumor. The Raiders apparently don't want to trade him, but nor would they want to right now. But if things go awry, if this Las Vegas Raider team starts off 1-4, 0-4, 0-5, are they shipping Adams over to New York because Aaron Rodgers says, I want it? Bring him. On the golf course, he was interviewed, and he said, Adams, I can't wait to play with him again. So, tell me what you think, Denny. Denny's crystal ball.
I think Aaron Rodgers is a beast, but I'm not a huge Davante Adams fan. Am I out of line here? I like Aaron Rodgers a lot. But, I mean, has Davante Adams been slipping, or is it me, Smith? You know, like.
Well, so he had a great finish to the year. He had 120 yards and I think 1 or 2 touchdowns in week number 17. He helped win championships in that final week. But it was a very bad season. It was very up and down. There's a lot of hospital balls involved. The only problem with this current situation, which is in LV with no quarterbacks, is that he will be getting hospital balls yet again. He will be put in a position to where he's putting his body on the line, waiting to be traded out of LV. So there's a lot of risk involved. There's a lot of risk involved that he even escapes, the season injury-free, or escapes his season as part of his season in LV injury-free. He's also turning 32 this year, and part of his up and down could have been related to being older. Part of his up and down could have absolutely been related to being older. But there's still talent there, no doubt about it. But how many games can he play at 32 years old, 31 turning 32?
I don't want anything to do with him. I never even jumped on him when he was young. I don't even care about that guy.
Hey, Alan.
At all.
Alan says 2024 is redemption year for Smitty. Let me just say this: is much of a compliment as you think this is. This is one of those like underhanded compliments. We crushed 2024, Alan. The way you're saying this is almost as if we didn't land anything. We had a bad year. We didn't have a bad year. Had we not got kicked in the nutsack with the Aaron Rodgers Achilles, had we not been kicked in the nutsack with this debacle in Atlanta, we would have smashed everything. We still smashed so many things. The Gibbs haters coming in later going, you know what? You're right. Hold on, Denny. I'm speaking. The Gibbs haters coming back in and saying, you know what, you're right. Oh my God, I'm sorry about that. The absolute breakout Jordan Love season. How many people came around on that ship? We had so many things that we smashed. So I get what you're trying to say, Alan, but I have no problems with what we delivered product-wise last year. There's no redemption at all. I appreciate you, though. I know what you're trying to say, but we crushed last year. But we're going to absolutely, if what Alan's trying to say is we're going to be 100%, then I'm with you, bro. We're going to smash everything. Mashed potatoes. I mean, we'll try to be. No one's 100%. Look, a good year is like you smash like 70% of everything, and it's like you're having the best season of your life. So 30% of everything that's coming out of my mouth, 30% of it I'm going to miss on. I'm going to miss on 30% of it. That's going to be an amazing year. So just keep that in mind. If I don't like one of your players, if I talk too much trash about DJ Moore or Caleb Williams, that could be one of the players inside the 30% bucket that I miss on my best season I ever have. So understand that. Keep that in perspective. You don't always have to agree with me, but I appreciate it, Alan. Salty Chopper says Smitty literally won me $1,000 last year. Thank you, Salty. Appreciate you. AR5 will win or lose leagues. John says, John, way to be negative on AR5. Why can't you just leave it at here? Let's edit John's message. John, this is gonna make John mad too, because he's gonna be like, that wasn't my message that you put up there. Smitty. AR5 will win. Let's see. Will win leagues. John, I love this comment. AR5 will win leagues. I agree with John. Let's go. Mashed potatoes.
Yeah. Okay, John.
Excellent comment, John.
I think he really meant he'll lose leagues too. I think he's afraid. That's what he's afraid of.
Yeah, the people that don't draft him are losing leagues. That's correct. I agree with that too. Let's go. Mashed potatoes. John's dropping straight facts tonight. Dropping straight facts.
John.
Go ahead, Denny. What are you trying to interrupt? Say.
Johnny's like, if I had Christian McCaffrey and I had Josh Allen, and if I had everyone, then everything would be great. Yeah, it doesn't work out that way all the time. You have to figure stuff out. And if any of you guys have freaking But any of you guys have a mind.
Hey, Denny.
Going all
Denny,
over
have
the
you
tour.
heard? Denny, have you heard the good news? Rockout's doing poetry now. You want to hear some of Rockout's? You want to hear some of?
It's better than his rap.
Here he goes. Tell me what you think of Rockout's. Tell me what you think of Rockout's most recent poetry. Here we go.
You Giants really thought I was finished. I'm just getting started. I'm Saquon Barkley. You decided to pay Daniel Jones. You played yourself. Now I'm coming back and I'm going to make you remember like it's straight October. And it's over. I'm Saquon Barkley.
Oh, bottle it up.
Did you hear that, Broad?
We said that
sing
today.
The national anthem.
Yeah.
In the home run derby.
Yeah. I think we should bottle. I think we should bottle that up and send it to the aliens. That should be the first thing the aliens hear is Rockout talking about Saquon Barkley.
That's bad, dude. That wasn't good. Like,
No, that was-
hey,
that was
Rockout,
good.
man,
No, Rockout's he's smashing.
you gotta start singing or something.
That-
Because you're rapping good. Your rap's just.
I disagree with you, Denny.
God.
I disagree
It's
with.
really sour. You gotta start singing. Like I could even sing. I could sing at the drop of a hat. I could sing the national anthem, and it's way better than what you did. But
Okay, hold on. Denny, mute yourself real quickly, and let me go around the horn here. Saul wants to know: is it bad having Hurts and Barkley on the same team, or do you see it as a good thing? This is a tough thing. At the end of the day, in best ball, stacking's good. Stacking can be great. You stack two pieces like this that could potentially rotate scoring points. It's not as good as stacking Hurts with the wide receivers. I do think that the Eagles will be so potent, though, that Barkley will have like a 12 to 13, 14-point game every week anyway, no matter what happens with Jalen Hurts. So I don't think this is a detriment. In non-best ball, I don't think it's a detriment either. But it's because the offense is amazing. Hurts had 11 games last year out of 17 where he was a top 6 QB. So you're not going to get hit in the nutsack too many times rolling these two guys out. Now, in a different team, like let me give you an example, Tua and Achane, that could hit you different, in a non-best ball. Yeah. Best ball, I don't mind it, but it could hit you different in a non-best ball. I think I don't mind this though. So it's a good question. We've talked about it before. Is it like a target of mine? No, because in non-best ball, you don't even want to worry about stacking. People are shoveling that down everybody's throat. There's not a real big benefit of stacking. It sometimes can be a detriment to have a wide receiver and the quarterback. People are taking this best ball mentality and they're even carrying it over to redraft, and it's nonsense. It's nonsense, bro. Let me go over to Justin. Justin, what else you got real quickly, and then I'm going to cycle you off the phone line. Then I'm going to come back and draft. So this is the final thought. Justin, go.
So I had a 0% ownership of Zay Flowers like the other day, and like I was kind of running out of time on my clock, and he had fell to like 51, and that prompted me to kind of ask you, like, is there, if let's say hypothetically Zay Flowers fell, is there a range in which you would draft him, and where would that be?
So this is a controversial topic. I think a lot of people, they know he was a moon man for me last year. They know that, Zay Flowers, we were the Zay Flowers channel. I know we claim that a lot, but I think we can pretty much 90% of when I say we were higher on this guy than anybody, I can say that. We were higher on Bijan than anybody, and I take the L for that. An L comes with that sometimes. He was running back 9. No one lost the league because of Bijan being running back 9. You lost your league because you didn't land your other picks. But Bijan at number 9, it was disappointing, and I take the L. If I'm going to take the victory lap that I was the highest on him, I'm going to take the L too. I do. But Zay Flowers, he was a moon man. We loved him. The problem with Zay Flowers is that he plays for a team that has a quarterback that doesn't ever produce top 30 wide receivers ever. Yeah. And they just added Derrick Henry and want to run more than ever. So my estimation is that Zay Flowers is a very risky proposition in 2024 when he's going in round 3, a lot of the time, end of 3, top of round 4. So if he drops to a territory of, like, what are we talking in terms of, you said 50 what?
Yeah, I just picked him up at 51, and I was running out of time. Like, I don't feel terrible about it because I had, like, literally 0%.
So
like,
that's 5th round. That's fine. That's fine. Yeah, that's okay. But let me just say this: are there players I like better in round 5 than Zay Flowers? If you needed a quarterback, Anthony Richardson. If you needed a quarterback, C.J. Stroud. If you needed a, that's about where it gets, bro. That, like, 5th round's perfect for him. That's where his ADP should be in round number 5. That's where he's actually standing out as a good pick, a very good pick. But given that the situation in Baltimore probably won't increase his odds of being a top 10, 12 wide receiver, which is what the expectation level is for some people, top 15 wide receiver, whatever. I don't know that I can buy him at any price other than my 5th drafted player or my very late 4th drafted player. And even then, I don't know that I'm going to be doing it, because at the end of the day, Josh Jacobs, Trey McBride, Dalton Kincaid, Malik Nabers, Tank Dell, I could go on and on. Those are 4th round players. I can find a 4th round player better than Zay Flowers every time. But you put Zay Flowers inside round 5, I'm fine with that. That's where he belongs. So I'm okay with that. 50 something, for sure. Sure, bro.
Smitty, I love you. I'm trying to be shorter and better with the outros. Have a great night.
All right.
Brother. I love you.
Justin, we appreciate you. Later. He must have rewatched me going, okay, sure, Justin. Denny, we love you, Justin. We love having you call in. Denny, final thoughts, closing thoughts. Go. You're live.
Me?
Yeah, you.
All right. I remember arguing with you about Anthony Richards. I was wrong.
You're wrong.
Right?
Okay.
You're wrong. You were right.
I appreciate it.
And it's feeling home. And I'll say the same thing about another one, but watching Anthony Richards. No, he can zip it. It's not. He's not a fluke. But he's the truth. I love Anthony Richards. I'd do anything to grab that kid.
Denny's out.
I know you love.
Drop the mic.
I know you love Milton too. Milton, you love Joe. You want Joe Milton to just sit next to Drake May and just show him how to zip it.
Well, I told Travis, like, in kind of a
MC league. Oh my God!
I told Travis in kind of a joking way, but also, like, quietly, I do want this to be the case. I'd start Joe Milton, and then if he fails, you put in Drake May just to see. Let him go out there, and if he holds Drake May off the field, you got a nice problem to have. Like, part of me is like, you're not going to send Drake May out anyway in the beginning. Let's just throw Milton out there, see what happens. Let's just see what happens. Maybe we develop a trade situation. Maybe this is Drew Brees all over again.
Great. It's a great ceiling. I love the ceiling, man.
You got 2 QBs. I like Milton.
I know I was poo-pooing it with you a couple, but
you were very down on my Milton convo. You go back and rewatch that video. You were like, Smitty, Milton sucks. Why do we? No, he's a party trick, no doubt about it. But could he evolve? Could he evolve into something? There's definitely.
Oh my God, he's a beast. And then the Pats actually picked up another guy, wicked deep tight end. Oh man, look this cat up. He's just like beast. You know what I mean? Like
not to interrupt you, but the same thinking that I have here, and I admit that I'm truly, like, joking, but also very serious, like, down deep in the core. Like, I'm not wanting to admit that I'm actually really, really serious about it, but what I'm joking, kind of. I think that same mentality should have been used with J.J. McCarthy in Minnesota. And they're doing it with Darnold, but you should have brought Fields in, started Fields. If he fails, you go to J.J. McCarthy. Yep. I think the same thing should have been done on a bunch of different fronts, using Fields as that piece. But Milton it's got to be a nice feeling knowing you got Milton as well on top of
Nice feeling.
Yeah.
And Smitty, I've always been on your side with Fields. It ain't over with Fields. I don't know what people are thinking.
Yeah.
It ain't over with that kid. Man.
The people are ridiculous with Justin Fields. All right, hey, later, Denny. We'll see you later, pal. Appreciate you.
All right, later on. I don't love you, Smitty.
All right, Pacheco show tonight. All right, later. We'll be back. Travis, final thoughts?
No, I'd just say with the Barkley thing, it's not a perfect one-to-one comparison, but, look at what happened with Christian McCaffrey when he went somewhere that was just loaded with weapons, and defenses couldn't zero in on him. He was already very good, but, it's just been, unbelievable what he's done over there. And I really do think we're going to see that out of Saquon, so don't be afraid to draft him or trade for him or whatever you got to do.
Yeah, definitely, bro. Definitely. And then we got a super chat here from Justin. Says, Smitty, the people's champion. Appreciate you. Justin's got thick skin, too, because sometimes like Justin, this is constructive criticism. You brought it up. I didn't. But you are a little long-winded. And then ends up being, by the time you get through the 4 or 5 analogies and puns and all that, it's like we're already past the topic. So hone in on that, and I think you're going to be good. But I don't want you for a second to think that you've done anything wrong or say, apologize. You take laps for being apologetic. We're going to give you a standing ovation. Justin is an absolute monster. He helps, in his way, keep the lights on by dropping super chats, being very generous in the chat. We love Justin. So Justin, don't take that the wrong way, but just to be, you're tweaking everything. We're trying to get you to be a better fantasy analyst. We're trying to get you to be a better phone call contributor. So just hone in on it. Keep it short and sweet. No stories. Just, hey, what do you think about this? Not, my uncle's cousin's boyfriend's dry cleaner reminds me of the story. Let me do the long-winded analogies. Appreciate you, Justin, for the super chat. When Smitty gets a $50 hauler, is that Denny singing a song? Yeah, it is. If anybody wants to try it out, drop a $50 hauler before I hit the end button, and you'll definitely hear Denny singing like an angel. Travis, anything else real quick? I'll be back tonight. Isaiah Pacheco Moon Man induction show with the draft is going to be on tap.
Yep, I'll see you tonight, Smitty.
All right, later. All right, I'll see you all later. Appreciate you. Isaiah Pacheco becomes a Moon Man tonight. It's long overdue. Long overdue. He's got 10 to 15 touchdown potential this year. So get ready for that show. Blue 32! Blue 32! Hood!
A-Chan. A-Chan is the man. His haters call him small.
But he is 9 feet tall.
A-Chan is the man. Brees Hall is 8 foot tall. He will always answer the mother freaking call. Don't let him fall. In the third, don't stall. Just give Batman the freaking football.
He's Brees. He's Brees.
He does a hell of a job. A hell of a job. A hell of a job.
Brees Hall, please report to the moon.
He does a hell of a job.
Guys, don't forget to join the Patreon. I'm going to be sending out those emails this weekend to get people. The first 200 people are getting into a league, a 240 plus man league. Here's the Patreon link. Join the Patreon. And it also is a way to extend this live chat environment for you guys. It's the best chat around. I promise you, you're going to love it. I'll see you all tonight for the Pacheco Show.